Meet David. David has a dream, a gourmet grilled cheese food truck. He's hardworking, he's honest, and he's completely broke. Now meet Sarah. Sarah is David's aunt. She's retired, she has some savings, and more importantly, she trusts David. She's seen him grow up. She knows he's a good kid. So Sarah does what any good relative would do. She goes to her local bank and puts up her own house as collateral so David can get a $50,000 loan. The bank says yes. Why wouldn't they? They aren't taking any risk. If David fails, they just take Sarah's house. This is a story about love, trust, and the social glue that holds our world together. But here's the part they don't tell you in the Hallmark movies. This transaction might be a disaster for the economy. In fact, according to a groundbreaking paper by economist Mehdi Chowdhury, this kind act might be an inefficiency engine that actually makes your country poorer. Today, we are peeling back the curtain on the relationship economy. We're going to look at why your good intentions are often bad math, and why the most altruistic thing you can sometimes do for someone you love is to tell them no. Why can't we focus on economics for more than 10 minutes? Because economics usually feels like a spreadsheet. It's cold, it's robotic. But the reality is that the global economy isn't run by robots, it's run by human behavior. For decades, the gold standard of fixing poverty in developing nations was something called relationship banking. The idea was simple. Poor people don't have credit scores, but they have reputation. If we lend based on trust and social ties, we can bypass the cold rules of Wall Street. It sounds beautiful, right? It feels morally superior to a credit card company charging 24% interest. We've been told that social capital, the trust between us, is a superpower. But here's the problem. Trust is blind. Trust doesn't care if your business model is garbage. Trust doesn't care if the market is already saturated with grilled cheese trucks. Trust only cares about the person. In his paper, Relationships, Human Behavior, and Financial Transactions, Mehdi Chowdhury drops a metaphorical bomb on this kindness narrative. He argues that while trust, altruism, and reciprocity facilitate transactions, they don't ensure efficiency. And in economics, inefficiency is a polite word for waste. It means we are burning resources, money, time, and human sweat on things that produce nothing. Chowdhury builds a theoretical laboratory to test this. He brings in 3 players. This isn't just math. This is a Shakespearean drama played out in dollars and cents. Player 1, the banker, the principal. Think of him as the rational predator. He has the cash, he wants a return. But he's lazy. He doesn't want to investigate if David's grilled cheese truck is actually a good idea. Player 2, the debtor, the agent. That's David. He has the idea. He's the one who's going to sweat. Player 3, the guarantor, the altruist. That's Aunt Sarah. She's the one who provides the security. Now, let's add the human ingredients that Chowdhury identifies. 1. Altruism. Sarah feels a psychological glow by helping. She's not doing this for the money, she's doing it for the warm fuzzies. 2. Reciprocity. This is the most dangerous one. Because David knows Sarah risked her house for him, he feels a crushing, soul-heavy obligation to pay her back. He isn't working for profit anymore. He's working to save Sarah. 3. Trust. The banker trusts Sarah's collateral. On the surface, this looks like a win-win-win. The banker gets his interest, David gets his truck, and Sarah gets to feel like a hero. But Chowdhury asks us to look at the timeline of effort. How much effort is David putting in? In Chowdhury's model, effort isn't just working hard, it's a monetary cost. It's the hours David could have spent at a high-paying job, but instead spent cleaning a deep fryer. It's the savings he's pouring into the truck. Chowdhury asks a terrifying question. What if the project was doomed from the start? This is where the story takes a dark turn. Chowdhury presents us with two cases. Case 1, the success, the boring one. In case 1, the project is good. David's grilled cheese truck is a hit. The returns are higher than the loan. Trust helped a good idea get off the ground. Everyone is happy. This is what we think happens every time we help a friend. Case 2, the sinkhole, the reality check. This is where Chowdhury's paper gets brilliant. Imagine the project is a case 1 failure. The math just doesn't work. In a rule-based system, the bank would deny the loan. David would be sad for a week, but then he'd go get a job at a tech company where he's actually productive. Society wins because David is doing something useful. But because of relationship banking, the loan is approved. Now, look at David. He's reciprocal. He sees Aunt Sarah's house on the line. Even though his truck is losing money every month, he doesn't quit. He works 100 hours a week. He skips meals. He spends his last $5,000 trying to fix a broken engine. In the end, David manages to scrape together enough money to pay the banker back. The banker: great, I made my 10% profit. The guarantor: whew, my house is safe. David is such a hard worker. The society: wait, we just lost. Think about it. The total wealth of society is the project's return minus the effort put in. If David spent $60,000 worth of his time and money to pay back a $50,000 loan on a failing truck, $10,000 of wealth has been incinerated. It's an inefficient allocation of resources. That $50,000 could have gone to a medical startup. David's 100-hour work weeks could have been used to build software. Instead, they were used to save face in a relationship. Chowdhury's conclusion is chilling. Relationship-based lending doesn't ensure that good projects get funded. It ensures that bad projects are artificially kept alive by human guilt and altruism. Why does this happen more in informal settings, like in developing nations or small, tight-knit communities? Chowdhury points out that formal banks have a vetting process. They ask for a business plan. They act as a cold, calculating filter. But in relationship banking, the filter is bypassed. When we lend based on trust, we stop doing the homework. We assume that because the person is good, the idea must be good. Think about the trust game experiment mentioned in the paper, Berg et al., 1995. If I give you $10 and the researcher triples it to $30 and you give me back $15, we both win. Trust created wealth. But Chowdhury argues that in the real world, resources are scarce. If I give you that $10 based on trust, I didn't give it to someone else who might have turned it into $100. Relationship-based lending crowds out rule-based lending. It creates a club's economy. If you're in the trust club, you get money regardless of your talent. If you're an outsider with a genius idea but no Aunt Sarah, you get nothing. This leads to a stagnant economy where the same people keep failing at the same things, while new, efficient ideas die in the dark. This leads us to a conclusion that feels wrong to our human hearts, but right to our economic brains. There is a virtue in the heartless, rule-based banker. Why? Because the heartless banker doesn't care about your feelings. He only cares about the wealth creation. By being cold, he forces you to be efficient. Chowdhury isn't saying we should abolish trust. He acknowledges that relationships help obtain larger loans and reduce financial tension during crises. But he is warning us that we have over-glorified human behavior in finance. We've turned altruism into a policy tool without realizing that altruism is a terrible judge of business viability. The most altruistic thing David could have done was to fail fast. admit the truck was a bad idea, and save his Aunt Sarah the stress. But because he was reciprocal, he couldn't. His virtue became his vice. So, how do we use this? How do we live in a world where we want to help each other, but we don't want to burn down the economy? Here is your anti-inefficiency playbook. 1. Separate the person from the project. If a friend asks for money, ask yourself, if a total stranger brought me this business plan, would I invest? If the answer is no, then you aren't investing in a project, you are giving a gift. Action. Label it as a gift. Don't call it a loan. If you call it a loan, you trigger that reciprocity trap, where your friend will kill themselves trying to pay you back for a dead idea. 2. The hard exit rule. If you are the one taking the money, you need a dead man's switch. Before you take the check, tell your guarantor, if I don't hit X amount of revenue by month 6, I am closing the doors and getting a job to pay you back. Action. Don't let your reciprocity turn into persistence. Efficiency means knowing when to quit. 3. Demand cold data. If you're a leader in a community or a business, stop making decisions based on who you know. Start introducing cold filters, third-party audits, data metrics, and objective standards. Mehdi Chaudhry's paper is a reminder that the human touch isn't always a Midas touch. Sometimes it's a lead touch. We want to believe that love and trust can solve everything, but the economy is a giant machine that feeds on value, not just values. Trust is the glue that allows us to build the machine, but it isn't the fuel. If we try to run the machine on nothing but good vibes and Aunt Sarah's trust, the engine is going to seize up. David eventually closed his food truck. He lost 2 years of his life, and Sarah's glow faded when she realized he was miserable. He's now a manager at a successful restaurant chain. He's creating more wealth, paying more taxes, and he's actually happy. The cold decision to quit was the most warm thing he ever did. Next time you're offered a handshake or a favor, look past the smile. Look at the math. Because true efficiency, true wealth, comes from being brave enough to look at the cold, hard truth, even when it's your favorite person holding the pen. Thanks for watching. If you want to dive deeper into the math of human behavior, check out the full paper by Mehdi Chaudhry. And remember, stay curious, stay rational, and maybe keep your grilled cheese as a hobby.